Welcome into the George Plaster Show here on Hump Day of this week, Wednesday, February 4th. Beautiful day outside. It is sunny and 77, so we're getting into those higher temperatures. Fingers crossed that the cold weather is behind us. Very exciting show today. Lots of sports news coming down as we talked about. Last day of the franchise tag in the NFL was yesterday. So start of the new league year next Wednesday. So we're starting to get some trades that have already come down, and we'll get to those here in just a second on our update. But lots of rumors, lots of well, I'll save that for a little bit later once we get to the update. So the World Baseball Classic is about underway, as well as the USA was scrimmaging against San Francisco yesterday. Some weird things happening in college baseball. Lots of stuff to get to. Mike Organ will join us at 3:20. Just a reminder, just a quick programming note. We are not on 94.9 The Fan today due to Vandy Boys. They're taking on Troy here. I think they just got underway for a 3 p.m. first pitch. That is over on 94.9 The Fan. So for today, we will be on via live stream on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook as normal through our normal time, 3 to 5. So Vandy Boys underway against Troy for their second midweek game. With that, we will go ahead and head to the director right now, George Plaster, sitting right in front of me here at the Ford Ice Center. George, how's it going?
We're good. How are you?
Oh, doing fine. So you're wearing shorts today. That's good.
Yeah, it's 75. That's more what's a reasonable deal. When you get actually 77, when you get down into the 50s, it's just not appropriate.
You know, Chicago kind of changed me a little bit, and that's kind of because I didn't used to do that before I moved up there, but then when I came back down, it just kind of carried over. I don't know.
I can see that. I can remember going with the Preds in a playoff series against the Blackhawks, and we did our show on a Friday afternoon from the United Center, and it was before game one, which the Predators actually won. We went to Wrigley Field on the off day, and that's one of the most miserable experiences I have ever had. Wrigley in April is no place to be.
Been to plenty of games in April, and especially when you're sitting in the shade, the wind's hitting you in the face. It's not fun. But I guess I don't know, it carried over. And when I see 55 or more, to me, I think short weather. But hey,
well, I can see where people in Chicago maybe feel that way, because the truth of it is they go a lot longer before they get anything like what we've experienced today. I don't know how they do it. I really don't.
I was always so sad because I was getting ready to go back home for the summer. They would just now start getting the warm weather. And I'm like, are you kidding me? As soon as I'm getting ready to leave, George, we had people from Minnesota that were wearing flip-flops pretty much year-round. It was very disturbing.
That is a little disturbing.
I remember going out, and it was like 30 degrees, and there was a guy from Minnesota wearing flip-flops. I thought he was crazy. But So let's go ahead and get into the update for today, George, because some big NFL news coming down the pike, and this one earlier this morning, blockbuster trade in the NFL, as the Kansas City Chiefs have sent all-pro corner Trent McDuffie to the LA Rams for a package of picks, including the 29th overall first-round pick, a third-round pick in 2027, a fifth-round pick, and a sixth-round pick. All for Trent McDuffie to the LA Rams.
And I think, given that most people believe that Kansas City, especially if Patrick Mahomes isn't available at the beginning of the season, that why not do this and start to stockpile for the next wave of greatness for the Chiefs? I think they got more in return than they had a right to expect. Now, McDuffie is a terrific corner, and the Rams are clearly in win right now mode. So I get it for both of them.
There are two trends that I noticed right here. First, for the Rams, they've used one first-round pick since 2017, and that was 24 when they drafted Jared Verse. Every other year, they've traded it. Now, they still do have a first-round pick because they traded with the Falcons to get James Pierce, so that's the 13th overall pick. They'll still have that. And for the Chiefs, this is the second time in the last 3 years that they've traded one of the best secondary players to another team who was on an expiring contract.
So the Rams are in a different position. They've got a veteran quarterback. They look at their roster and they're sitting there going, we can win now. You know, they were the team Seattle at times wasn't dying to play. Seattle took 2 out of 3 in that series, but one of them was that 38-37 deal that was an instant classic. I'm kind of with the Rams that their time is now. Kansas City's time is probably 18 months away.
Yeah, and they are expected to get Mahomes back at least for that first game in September, but who knows what they will look like this year. And 15 minutes ago, the New England Patriots announced that they were going to release Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, which is interesting because on one hand, Stephon Diggs can help a bunch of teams. There's no doubt about that. But there's also not much doubt that with Stephon Diggs, you're going to get some real baggage.
And I don't know if this was a cap move or if it was to the baggage you're referring to. I'm not exactly sure what their cap situation's looking like this year, but the Dallas Cowboys, they reworked the deals of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith, because they were 55, I believe was the right number, $1 million over the cap, and this move cleared $66 million. Between 3 players, that's
a lot.
That's absurd.
That's a bunch.
The LA Chargers are releasing Mekhi Becton. Will save them about a little under $10 million against the salary cap, and they're expected to have $86 million for this current cycle. The NCAA is requiring availability reports for tournament teams starting this year for the first time ever, men's and women's.
Availability as in so-and-so is questionable that they can play. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's sort of them kind of saying, okay, FanDuel, here's what you want.
Yeah.
Here's what you need.
And they announced the broadcast crews as well. So pretty loaded lineup. And by the way, speaking of broadcast crews, George, did you see that NBC has signed Jason Benetti as the lead MLB announcer?
You know, I did. Benetti is a rising star. You can call it what you want. I think he's terrific. He is the play-by-play voice of the Detroit Tigers during baseball season. He does a lot of Fox football and basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's terrific.
I think he does a great
big
job,
fan of his.
Yeah. And the article I saw said that he will still be calling the Tigers games on the side. So
yeah.
That's he's fantastic. I love him. Let's get into the Nashville Predators because they made some moves ahead of the trade deadline here. They fell last night to Columbus 3-2, their second straight loss. And it would appear that Barry Trotz is ready to trade some guys. Michael McCarron to the Minnesota Wild for a 2028 second-round pick, and Cole Smith to the Golden Knights for prospect Christopher Seedoff, I think I'm saying that right, and a 2028 third-round pick.
So they've lost the last 2, which has sort of made some of the decision for them. I think that in the Minnesota deal, they got more than they probably had a right to expect. I thought they got pretty darn good value for McCarron. The Cole Smith deal, I don't know enough about the player you mentioned to really give you any thoughts one way or the other, except to say, okay, what it appears is going on so far is that he's dipping down to the 3rd and the 4th lines. But so far, not touching Ryan O'Reilly, who apparently does not want to leave, Steven Stamkos, who is, it sounds like, lukewarm about leaving. That there's speculation that there are 3 or 4 teams that Stamkos might be willing to go to, all playoff contender types, and I don't blame him. You know, at his age, he shouldn't agree to anything that doesn't take him to a team that's got a real shot to win the cup.
Yeah. And second straight loss again for the Nashville Predators. They're 5 points out of the final wild card spot in the Western Conference. College basketball last night. Florida won the outright SEC regular season title. Their second straight game scoring 105 plus points as they beat Mississippi State 108-74. And some action in the Big 12. Letdown spots continue to be a theme in college basketball as TCU took down Texas Tech 73-65, George. TCU is firmly in the tournament right now.
Sure looks like it. The Florida thing, more and more, Florida just looks like a team that you have to solidly include in they can win it all. The Mississippi State part of it probably doesn't mean much, but when they took Arkansas behind the woodshed, beat them by almost 40, man, that sent me a message.
And Kansas falling to Arizona State last night, a game in which Bill Self got ejected in the first half for it was just unbelievable.
I watched it. I'll say this. Whatever Self said, Self got his money's worth because it's not like he just was going on and on and on.
Nope.
And by the way, what he was arguing about, I think he was right about.
Oh, yeah. They said that Darren Peterson was holding when the guy was holding him. So
yeah.
So and did you see when he walked off the court that the Arizona students they had the smoke machines going as he was walking off? I thought it was so funny. Perfect level of pettiness right there. So the Big 12 just continues to be, one of those Diet Coke 2 liters. You throw some Mentos in there, you shake it up. That's exactly what the Big 12 is this year.
What it does, though, is it really makes you ask, okay, internally, how solid is Kansas? I think you've got the Peterson issues that seem to have gotten better. He seems to be playing more minutes. But like last night, they were awful. They weren't ready to play. They got chewed out at halftime, which created a second half surge that was too little too late. They were down 20 at the half.
I can't figure them out. I can't figure out Kentucky out either. It seems you have these hot and cold nights. You beat really good teams. You beat Houston at home. You beat Arizona at home. Then you lose to Arizona State. I can't figure it out. But I mentioned the letdowns. Alabama fell last night to, I think, a really good Georgia team. Firmly,
yeah, I don't think that one's a letdown.
They're going to be 8-9 seed. Georgia beat them 98-88.
You go down there, you better be ready. Georgia, if you were going to pick a dark horse, I don't think they're going to win the SEC tournament. But if you were going to just plop a dark horse out of thin air, they've got the athletic ability to do some really good things. They're scary athletically.
I think Mike White has done a phenomenal coaching job this year. I really do, considering he lost Silas Demery to UConn and then Asa Newell to the NBA. And he has Georgia playing at a better level than they were last year. So he's done a phenomenal job. In the SEC, Tennessee beat South Carolina 78-59 on the road. The Vols 21-9 overall. And Vanderbilt, winner in overtime over Ole Miss 89-86. George, that end of the second period or second half delay, whatever was going on, it was. Do you know what was going on with that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I know that I kept flipping around wondering why does it keep saying 3 minutes and 58 seconds?
The longest 3 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on.
So a couple of things that I want to square away. Number one, this is a really good win for Tennessee to be able, even though it is South Carolina, and they're going to have a coaching change in about a week and a half, to be able to go on the road without Nate Ament is a really good sign for them. On Vandy's end, to me, it was a win they had to have.
Yeah.
This is the win that gives them a chance to preserve a 5 seed. Tyler Tanner was
9 point, or no, that's Nickel. He had 34.
Yeah.
34.
Tyler Tanner was SEC Player of the Year kind of stuff last night. Now, after the game, Mark Byington got around to telling us what we have known for weeks, and I've been saying for weeks on the show about Frankie Collins. Quote, Frankie has left Nashville, and he's not going to be on the team. Well, duh. Okay. He hadn't been a part of this for weeks. A friend of mine sent me this, which is really kind of amusing. Frankie Collins has his furniture up for sale on Facebook Marketplace. Is this a hint that he is done? This was before the announcement got made last night. I don't pretend to know why last night was the night that they released this. They have known for weeks that he wasn't coming back. This is not new news. You know, half of Nashville's media was reporting the exact same thing I was reporting.
Exactly.
He was never going to play again. And for the life of me, I have no idea why Mark Byington waited.
Well, it also feels like common sense, too. The longer that he didn't play, at some point you're just, he's not going to play. I mean, it just seemed like common sense. But I did see the Marketplace stuff about a couple days ago. And, I mean, you had said it before then. So, wow. Were you worried that Vanderbilt was going to lose last night?
Well, yeah, they were down most of the evening.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, what you get into is sort of okay, what happens if they lose? Well, there's a real shot they go into the SEC tournament having lost 3 in a row. Probably a tough game in the tournament. What you don't want is to give the committee a, hey, this is a team that's on the downslope. You don't want that. And the win over Ole Miss kind of helped stop that a little bit.
In Miami, Ohio, 30-0 after squeaking out a win last night versus Toledo. They're outright MAC regular season champs, and they have one more game to get to 31-0.
Well, let me say this. I don't agree with what Bruce Pearl is putting out there.
Oh, yeah.
I think when you go 31-0, even if it's the Little Sisters of the Poor, and they haven't been all that impressive in what they've done, and Lenardi may be right that they are nothing more than an 11 seed. But you got to give them the shot to try it. I mean, look, I like Bruce, but his son's team at the moment has not earned that right. They just haven't.
Beat LSU last night, 16-14. Last thing that I want to get to, and then we'll head to our first break. What happened to the Vandy boys last night, losing to Central Arkansas?
Well, they had a couple of regulars that were not in, 2 of their better offensive players. I can report I thought that my intern, Alex Kranzler, pitched pretty well. Got into the 5th inning.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think they thought or he thought he'd go much more than 4.
Yeah.
You know, they're probably trying to stretch him out right now. He gave up 3 runs, but as I told him last night, a couple of them are seeing eye hits. You know, if you're a plaster intern, you got a chance. There's to Alex.
So, yeah, that's their, again, their 4th straight loss. They're playing right now versus Troy, trying to get right back on track. So we'll keep an eye and give you updates throughout the show. We'll head to our first break, and then we'll get our buddy Mike Oregon on the line. We'll talk to him about everything that's going on. This is the George Plaster Show.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
Are you looking for expert medical care in Nashville without leaving your home? Medical House Calls brings concierge-level health care directly to your door. Whether you need urgent attention, ongoing primary care, revitalizing IV therapy, or medically guided weight loss, our experienced providers are just a phone call away at 615-838-2375 or go online, medicalhousecalls.com. If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
Welcome back into the George Plaster Show here on this Wednesday. We welcome in our good friend Mike Oregon of the Tennessean for his weekly visit. Mike, how's it going?
It's going good, Parker. We're getting ready for some hoops tournament action.
Yes, very exciting time of the year. It's March. We're getting our brackets, in a week and a half? Is that right?
And we're already in conference tournament for two of our teams, of our area leagues, three of our area leagues. You include Austin Peay. You got Missouri Valley, Ohio Valley, and Atlantic Sun. The Ohio Valley Conference has already had one game in the women's tournament played today.
Wow. And to sweeten that deal a little bit, Mike, guess who's in front of me right now in person? We're all together. Well, everyone except Kelly. But George is with us today.
I was with him a week ago.
I don't know if we were out here last Wednesday. Were we? I don't think we were. But anyway, Mike, George is with us in person.
Mike, it's good to talk to you.
Well, it's good to hear you back, and glad that everything worked out well. Of course, we welcomed you at the banquet a couple of weeks ago too.
That's right. I did forget that y'all saw each other there. So
we were both in tuxes, which is really not how I say Mike and I operate. Would that be
George? Let me just say, I had about 5 people that I've known my entire life come up and introduce themselves to me that night because they didn't recognize me in a tux.
You know, if you remember, and I think you were part of it, I tried to lead a revolt to get rid of the tuxes, and I got shot down.
I would have supported you.
No, I do remember that. And the tuxes are very polarizing. They're very expensive on the one hand. And we have a budget we try to make in fundraising every year. And it would make fundraising a lot easier. But no, I do remember that. That's been brought up a couple of times and shot down quite quick about as soon as it gets brought up.
I think the fact that I was the one to propose it did not help its cause.
No, it's probably the other way around. If we didn't have them and you proposed them, they'd probably shoot that down too.
Exactly.
So Mike, you mentioned that some of the mid majors are underway, and I was looking at Lenardi's latest bracketology. 6 teams from Tennessee projected to get in. There could be a 7th because Austin Peay they lost kind of a weird one the other night. So now Central Arkansas is projected to win the ASUN, but really a chance that 7 teams could be represented from the state of Tennessee. How cool would that be?
All right, Parker. Has he released one since last Friday?
Yes, yesterday morning.
Okay, who does he have in the OVC?
In
Tennessee State.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So he does have Tennessee State. I was going to say he has not had Tennessee State up to this point. He's had UT Martin and Moorhead.
There we go.
And then so now he's got Tennessee State. He's had Austin Peay. So basically, he swapped out Austin Peay and Tennessee State. So if Austin Peay gets in, you're right, it'll be 7. And that again, I telling somebody this yesterday. That's without Memphis, who usually is in the tournament, as George Plaster could tell you, because if I'm not mistaken, he used to be the voice of the Tigers.
He used to be the voice of a lot of things.
So it's apparent that that it's back to, no sympathy anymore. It's just he's back. Fire the daggers at him.
Take some shots.
No, it wasn't serious. It was just a bad cold. So now we're back to where we were before.
Yeah.
So,
no, but seriously, guys, I mean, that's without Memphis, who normally is in the tournament,
right,
or at least, on the bubble right there close, and they're not this year. But, yeah, I mean, that's pretty good when you're not including Memphis. And then here's another thing on a smaller scale, or at least a more local scale. I don't know if you guys have realized this, but we have 3 conference coaches of the year and 3 players of the year right here in Nashville, in Belmont, Tennessee State, and the Vanderbilt women. All 3 swept the Coach and Player of the Year awards in their conferences.
That's fantastic. By the way, Michaela Blake's, I'm going to pivot to Vanderbilt women's basketball. They start their tournament play, I think, on it's either Thursday or Friday. Correct me if I'm wrong. Should Michaela Blake's be National Player of the Year for the women's?
I've held off on saying that, but down the stretch for her to play as well as she has, and which is a continuation of throughout the season, I think she probably should. This is the first time I said this, because, like I said, I've tried to temper that because not want to be partisan, being local and all that. But no, I think she's that good, and I think they're that good, and they're that good because of her.
I talk a lot with Jake Lyman, who's the voice of the Vanderbilt women's team, and he's going through all these stats about Michaela Blake's and the amount of 30-point games that she's had. And I watched the game versus the Lady Vols last Sunday. They couldn't stop her, and I've heard him make this argument to me. The girls from UConn are going to get a lot of love. Sarah Strong, AZ Fudd. If you take them off of the team, UConn's still probably a 1 seed. But if you take Michaela Blake's off of Vanderbilt's team, I don't know how far that would drop them, but they're definitely not in contention for a 1.
Yeah, you made that case that I was trying to say just now about how good Vanderbilt is because of her. You made it a lot more eloquently than I did, Parker. That's exactly what I was trying to say. These other powerhouse teams are good because they've got players that caliber throughout. Michaela Blake, and this is no slight on the rest of the players on Vanderbilt's team, but I've covered Vanderbilt over the years. I was the beat writer for about 10 years, and I've watched this team going all the way back to Phil Lee. And Michaela Blake's is so far much better than any Vanderbilt player that I've ever seen play that it's not even close. I mean, there's not even a number. She's like 1, 2, and 3, and then you start with number 4. I mean, and that's how good she is. So that's why I just think she's like you said, there's other players that can step up on other teams, but you take her off this team, and I'm not going to say they're average, but they're not anywhere like they are now.
So, and George, I welcome you into this conversation too, because I have a hypothetical. If Michaela Blake's and Vanderbilt, they end up winning the national championship this year, is Michaela Blake's the greatest Vanderbilt athlete of all time?
Oh my God, that's now we're back to the Pavia scenario, and there's certainly absolutely an argument to be made, George. I mean, like I said, I can't even think of the next who would be number 2. Cherise Sam at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's had some great players, Ashley McElhaney over the years. But my goodness, Michaela is so far and above any of them that she certainly is the greatest women's player. And then you look at the men. Have the men ever had anybody this dominating? I mean, because Clyde Lee, you almost go back to another era. goodness, it's a great argument.
It's a really good question, man. It might get a little
really
response.
Is. And it's so hard because it's like, catching, like, you don't want to be a prisoner of the moment because we're coming right off of saying that Pavia is the greatest of all times. So it sounds like we're just kind of flowing with the wind and saying, oh, now you're saying that the women's basketball player is the greatest. How can that be? And that's the fact. In this same, in this calendar year or whatever we're talking here, 7 or 8 months stretch, Vanderbilt may have had 2 of its greatest athletes, but no, there's no may to it. Vanderbilt has had 2 of its greatest athletes on the field of play in Pavia and Caleb.
Yeah, it's I started thinking about that earlier, and I'm like, well, maybe I don't know who second or the other athletes in the conversation would be, but certainly there's a case to be made. Going back to the men's side, and this will be my last one because I was looking at the bubble. I've been, when these bracketologies are released, I'm just glued to them, looking at all the seeds, and I'm looking at the bubbles. And to me, Mike, this is one of the weaker bubbles, if not the weakest, that I've seen within, the last 5-10 years or so. What is the case to be made for a team like Auburn, who at best is going to be 17-14 heading into this thing, versus, let's say, a Belmont who, if they don't win the MVC, what would be the argument for Auburn getting in over a Belmont?
Exposure for the tournament, and that's what they're going to want more eyes on the tournament. And I don't know if that'll come up in the selection committee. I don't know if they'll admit to that, the discussions, but they'd rather have a large school like Auburn than a Belmont. And the mid-majors have now, and I talked to Casey Alexander from Belmont about this yesterday, they have just come to the conclusion that they're not going to get a bid going forward in this era, in what we are now with the transfer portal being what it is. They're not able to develop players who have enough star power to get them in the tournament. And that's cold-blooded to say, but it's the case. The Missouri Valley, Belmont went to the Missouri Valley because it was not a one-bid league. They had gotten 2 teams in the past, but now the Belmont admits that if they don't win the tournament, then they're not going because Missouri Valley is a one-bid bid league. And part of that is because you can't develop a high-profile program with just one-year players. So you've got to rely on and I talked to Tyler Lundblade, a fantastic player at Belmont, their best player, the Missouri Valley Player of the Year. He's named today. And he said, that's what it's come down to. The whole regular season is played just to prepare you to try to win 3 games in 3 days because that's the only way we're going to get in. Now, Auburn, you asked, they've got more familiarity. They've got more star power. And they're going to bring more eyes to the tournament.
Mike, let me toss one that's right in your backyard and mine, because we grew up in an OVC that the Nashville media really covered. And the fact of the matter is that's really not the case to any great extent, other than your coverage of Tennessee State for the most part in football. It was almost like automatic. Tennessee State 16 seed. And yet there's part of me saying that Beth DeBusch did the best she could possibly do with the teams they've added to keep it from going under. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's and George, I hate to say it, but I'm a little bit surprised that the OVC is still afloat. I mean, it has really taken a beating over the last 8 to 10 years, and it has continued. The latest with Tennessee Tech bolting, and Tennessee Tech's a huge loss to this conference with what with the football program that they built this year. To lose them in football is going to be huge, and some of the teams they brought in just don't have the name recognition. The Lindenwood, Southern Illinois, or an Edwardsville, Southern Indiana. Some of those schools just do not have the familiarity and recognition that you need. And, the conference has gone to where at one point it could say, if you don't play football and basketball, you can't come here. Well, now it says whoever wants to come can come here. We need everybody. And it's just credit Beth for keeping it afloat as long as she did. And we still don't have a commissioner to replace Beth. And I don't know, that scares me a little bit, George, because they've left that position vacant for so long. And I think they're kind of waiting to see how things shake out and conference realignment and all that again, like it does every year. But you mentioned him, but she did a fantastic job of keeping the OVC as relevant as it was.
I want to ask you one that I want to make clear on the front end. I think Mark Byington is a terrific basketball coach. I have been a little surprised in recent weeks because it got out 2 to 4 weeks ago that Frankie Collins was never going to be a part of Vanderbilt basketball anymore. I've been, for the last 2 weeks, saying, look, let's cut the crap. He ain't coming back. So finally, last night, he goes ahead and admits it, I guess, in his post game at Ole Miss. What do you think the delay really was about?
I think Mark got upset. And there was a report early when Frankie got injured about his knee that he was done for the season. And he, for whatever reason, Byington wasn't happy about that and kind of poo-pooed it and said, I'm no doctor, but from what I've seen, it's not nearly that serious, and, we expect him back. And I don't know why he would do that. I mean, the kid has had a terrible track record. This is his fourth college. Third, he went to 3 different high schools. This is exactly what you expected to happen with him. And I think Mark might have been, I don't know, a little ashamed of that. He thought he would be the one to fix him, and he wasn't. But getting upset about the injury story, and then it proved to be either true or there was something else obviously wrong. And it makes Byington look bad because he let it on. It looked like it would be his suggestion was it'd be a 2 to 3 week thing, that he'd be back in the regular season, certainly before the tournament. Now he's not even on the team anymore. So I don't know what happened with the injury or why he's not on the team. And then Byington says it was best for both sides that he's gone. And that's pretty strong, for you to say that. And so I don't know. You're right, George. It's kind of the first chink in the armor that we've seen from Byington, how he handled the situation.
So, Lee Fowler, and that he smartly doesn't admit to many people that he was my color announcer at Memphis State. I don't know if you were aware of that, but I was once their announcer. Last week, Mike, just in some conversation about college basketball, Lee sort of just blurts out that a college basketball coach, and the one thing he said was it's not Byington, and I'm guessing it's somebody over in the North or South Carolina area where Lee has quite a few contacts, made the comment to him that North Carolina and NC State both were going to end up reporting deficits of more than $20 million for whatever their fiscal years are, and that this coach said to him, look, we all know this NIL crap is going to be over in about 3 years because it can't sustain. You talk to a lot of coaches. Are you hearing the same kind of thing?
Yeah. Not quite as specific as about those 2 institutions, but if Lee said it, then it's true. A coach told him that, and yeah, that's exactly where I see this train headed. Is you can't just continue to pay these athletes the amount of money that they're paying. Now, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm just saying when you don't have that much coming in. Now, the TV packages are one thing in football. You don't have those in basketball. So not to the same degree. So, yeah, the whole thing was set up. It's done backwards. It was, let's pay them first, and then after that, let's figure out how to pay them, because the NCAA dragged its feet and never took care of this situation and tried to come up with a way to pay its athletes or take care of its athletes monetarily. And so that's how this thing came about, was a crisis management, do now and plan later. And that's where they are now, is they're paying athletes, but there's no stream of income to pay them. You're having to go back to your donors and your boosters and just hey, this is this kid right here will make a difference for us. Well, that's not always going to pan out. So those donors and boosters are going to quit believe in you at some point. And that's where you get to the point where you just can't afford to keep playing this game. And then, but everybody's going to happen to everybody, George, because if only 3 or 4 institutions can continue to pay, they're going to continue to pay it, and they're just going to dominate. So, yeah, exactly what Lee said is I can see that happening. And yeah, we do know that schools are strapped financially. All of a sudden, they've gone from, printing money, which is the way it was up until this came around, to trying to find other ways to generate revenue to pay its athletes.
Hey, the last thing I want to talk to you about, because it really got my attention, the Sounds sent out a press release of all the former Sounds, or in a couple of cases, current Sounds, who are playing in the World Baseball Classic. And it's a huge number, including a guy that may end up on the team this year, Tyler Black, who will represent Canada. And I was like, wow, look at that number.
I had no idea about that, George. The last thing I got from the Sounds, I think they were looking for broadcasters. Or was it broadcasters? Or I know they were looking for national anthem people. No, they were looking for PA announcers. That's what it was. I have not seen that, but that intrigues me.
Okay, hold on.
I'm going to investigate that.
Keep going, because this is a perfect note for your
Absolutely.
note column.
Exactly what I already thought. Yeah.
Now,
that's a great lead note.
Let me see if I can find this, because it was something like 40 some odd, and now all of a sudden, imagine this, I can't find it. In any time that I need to find something on the phone, it isn't going to happen. But they sent it out in the last day or two of how many former Sounds are playing in this thing. And, if you had asked me ahead of time, how many you think there are? I probably would have said 6 or 7. It's way into double digits.
10 at the most. Yeah, I was going to say 10 at the most. Well, and the Sounds have done a good job. The media doesn't cover the Sounds or double or minor league baseball anywhere across the country like it used to. Yeah, these things come about, and we become uneducated about what they're doing. So, shame on us for not realizing that. And I am sure glad you pointed it out, because I'm going to investigate that, and that'll make a fantastic column for me.
So keep talking for a second, because I'm trying to find where it is, and it may well be on their web. It may well be on their website.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that we're so close to playing baseball. I mean, George, it's the weather, the ice storm. Oh my goodness, I got buttercups out front blooming, and I'm so ready for baseball.
Mike, how interested are you going to be in this World Baseball Classic?
I wish I could get more interested. Parker, at this time of year, NASCAR ramps up for me so much that it's hard for me to multitask and pay a great deal of interest. It'll depend on where I am in the NCAA tournament. There sure looks like I'm going to be needed at 1, 2, or 3 spots with what we were talking about a while ago.
Do you have an idea where you might be for the NCAA tournament?
Probably, Parker, if Tennessee State gets in the NCAA tournament, it's going to be hard for me to justify not going.
Right.
It'll only be the third time in Tennessee State history that they've been in the NCAA tournament. Tennessee State has a rich tradition in athletics, but in recent history, that's not been the case.
Not been too
It's
kind.
been a long time since Tennessee State was good. Other than George taking them to the playoffs and Rod Reed taking them to the playoffs, they haven't been good in football in a very long time, and they hadn't been good in basketball, really good in basketball until 1994 was the last time they were in the NCAA tournament, and they've only been twice. So
that was
if they get in the
Frankie.
NCAA tournament,
That was Frankie
Allen
Allen
back to
and
back.
Carlos Rogers,
Okay.
a great
Yep.
center.
Yeah.
Yep, and Carlos is on the Wall of Fame that put in there, and in the Gentry Center, and I just again in a capsule, if they can't, if Tennessee State goes NCAA tournament for the first time, for only third time ever, and first time in that 32 years, I feel like I got to go with them.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to read it to you. And let me say thank you on the front end to Corey Hilborn. The 2026 World Baseball Classic is set to officially begin tomorrow. That would be today.
Yep.
With the start of pool play. Blank. Former Nashville Sounds will represent 15 different countries in the 6th edition. Okay. Parker, how many? How many former Sounds?
You said it was up in the 18?
Double digits.
18?
What do you got, Mike? How many?
17. I was thinking 17 before Parker said 18. I was thinking 17.
How about 31?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
This is absolutely mind-boggling. When I saw it, I was like, you got to be kidding. But he listed, this is a great story. For instance, Tyler Black, who has been a Sound the last couple of years, will represent Canada. Abner Uribe, Dominican Republic. Nick Ward, Great Britain. Robert Stock, Israel. Dave Righetti, pitching coach for Italy. Let me see here. Panama has several former Sounds. Ariel Jurado, Abdil Mendoza, Andy Otero, and I hope I'm saying all these names right. Julio Mascara, Bryce Terang will represent the United States, and Jackson Churio, Venezuela. I didn't get to all of them, but that'll give you an idea.
Still
31. Massive.
Wow. Well, Parker asked if I was going to pay attention. I don't care what I'm doing now. I don't care where I'm going next week or where I'm not going. I'm definitely going to pay attention.
There we go.
Now because of this local hook that George just pointed out. Absolutely.
There's your local note. I know we got to run.
Man,
Parker,
that was fantastic. Mike, really appreciate the time. We'll do it again same time next week.
Okay, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.
Enjoy the basketball this weekend. That was Mike Organ with the Tennessean joining us for his weekly visit. Let's recap what he had to say on the other side. It'll be a quick segment, but we can
it'll be really quick.
Really, really quick. We'll get to that on the other side. This is the George Plaster Show.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
Smashville hockey. Around here, it can sound like a language of its own. But hey, if you can pronounce Demumbrian, then names like Yossi, Shea, and Marchessault will roll right off the tongue. Nashville Predators, only in Smashville.
Sports and Social in Green Hills Mall is the new home for our Football Night in Nashville promotion. Their food is terrific. Their TV setup looks like a racing sports book in Vegas. And if you're a sports fan, you can't beat it. Starting September the 4th, we'll broadcast from Sports and Social every Thursday night. There's Pop-A-Shot, great football, and the chance to win a beautiful Mikey's Motors golf cart. See you at Sports and Social in Green Hills Mall. Here's Officer Garen Hoskins for the Metro Nashville Police Department.
The Metro Nashville Police Department is on the forefront of policing in this century, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. I'm glad I get to find other good officers, other future good officers. And if you're watching today, or you yourself or someone you happen to know is interested, join MNPD.com. Feel free to reach out to us because we need good officers, and it's a great city to work for.
You've heard me talk about the putting zone. Well, guess what? It's now open, and it offers a revolutionary indoor golf experience featuring state-of-the-art putting surfaces designed to replicate real-world course conditions. It allows players of all skill levels to practice, compete in tournaments, and connect year-round. Go by and see them at 3040 Sidco Drive and tell them Plaz sent you.
We're back here on the George Plaster Show rapid fire segment here. And George, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to bring this up, but we can certainly talk about this on the other side. But I just saw that there has been a legal dispute. You know, this has been a thing in college athletics with football, with men's basketball, and it's made its way down to college baseball because Blaine Brown, who is a two-way star for the Tennessee Vols, he left Rice, transferred from Rice. He signed a deal with their collective, and I'm trying to find the name of it, South Main Collective. And basically, he, incentives, all that, supposed to earn more throughout his duration as a student at Rice. Well, when he transferred Tennessee, this is what this article is saying, that it was violated given the fact that he left Rice when he signed a multi-year deal. And now this is heading to arbitration in a Houston court.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see more of these. Obviously the one that's getting the most attention is Sorsby from Cincinnati. By the way, there is late word of the passing of
Lou Holtz.
Yes, of one of the real college football icons.
Yeah.
Passed away at the age of 89. Man, did he make an impact? Heck yeah, he did.
And I think this was very well said. There's a guy, Josh Pate of Josh Pate's College Football Show, put out a tweet that said, he was known for many things. The younger generation, my generation, knows him more as a studio analyst, but people who were actually alive to watch him coach as the Notre Dame know him for a completely separate reason. But it didn't matter; the impact was all the same. I thought he was phenomenal, and I really wish that I was alive to see him as the Notre Dame head coach.
The 30 for 30, and I bet they run it tonight, involving Notre Dame and Miami. There's some great stuff in there about, when I guess he's quoted in the 30 for 30, something to the effect of, leave Jimmy Johnson's rear end for me.
Mm-hmm.
And all the players obviously heard that, and they're all imitating him. Leave Jimmy Johnson, how he talked. And I got a feeling over the next 48 hours, you're going to hear a lot of that.
Man, Lou Holtz was the best.
Yeah.
So really, really saddened to see that news. And again, I wish I was alive because you're referring to Catholics versus convicts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I may go watch that tonight now.
Have you not seen it?
No, I've seen bits and pieces. It's
one of the great 30 for 30s ever, because it involves the shirt making and the person that masterminded it and what ended up happening to him. Yeah.
I'm gonna go watch that tonight. So exciting stuff. George, I was inspired because we were talking about Vanderbilt women's basketball, and is Michaela Blake's going to be known as the greatest athlete of all time at Vanderbilt if they're able to win a national title this year? Well, instead of the audience listening to me blabber about this, I decided to get somebody who knows a lot more about that than I would. The voice of Vanderbilt women's basketball, Jake Lyman's going to join us at 4:30 as he's in Greenville for the SEC women's basketball tournament. So we can certainly talk to him about that on the other side. And we'll also talk about college basketball, bracketology, baby. Lenardi's latest released yesterday morning. All that in the 4 o'clock hour on the George Plaster Show. Time for our stat of the day, brought to you by Apple Collision Centers, as we welcome you into the 4 o'clock hour, the final hour of the Wednesday edition of the show. George, this is a question for the 1% of the 1% of college basketball fans. Which school won the first ever NCAA men's basketball tournament in 1939?
I think it is something like New York something or other, NY something.
I'll give you another crack at it. It's not that.
Then Chicago University.
Not a bad answer.
What do you got? Oregon.
First ever NCAA men's basketball tournament, 1939, won by the Oregon Ducks.
So, Parker, before you were born, the NCAA tournament was a 16 field as late as late 1970s, maybe more like mid 70s. It was a 16-team tournament. And UCLA, of course, under the legendary late, great John Wooden, ruled like no basketball team will ever rule again. When you look at what he did, and I wish I could just rattle off the number, it's something like 8 NCAA titles in 10 years or 9 and 11. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. But there's also the point that in some of those years, they never had to get out of the state of California until they got to the absolute NCAA Final Four. For instance, in 1971, Western Kentucky made the Final Four. Now, if you look them up, you might not find, I'm trying to think, it was Villanova that also made that Final Four that was sort of declared null and void because they used an ineligible player or whatever the case was. But gosh, that thing has changed so much. And it really, the big moment for the whole thing was while I was in college. And a lot of older people listening know exactly where I'm going. 79, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Indiana State, Michigan State. Those two brought the NCAA tournament to a level where it had never been before and ultimately led to its expansion to 64 teams. I want to say 86, 85, somewhere in there.
Yeah. It was So when they expanded this thing to 68, did you anticipate that they would, try to keep going and expand this thing to, I think, 76 is what they're talking about?
No, in fact, I made jokes about it on the air, and longtime listeners know this. I used to put it out there because I thought it was stupid at the time. Turns out I was probably wrong. But I said that the NCAA had a slush fund going to fund the Contras and the Nicaraguans. And I remember saying on the air, I don't even know who the Contras are. I think I know a little more about the Nicaraguans, but I don't know who the Contras are. But you always heard about the Contras and the Nicaraguans. And so when they did this thing, where they moved what they call now the first four to Dayton, what they did, and it really was pretty discriminatory, and they caught a lot of crap for it. What they did, they put a bunch of, in the early going, a bunch of the predominantly black schools, HBCU, into that thing, and they caught so much crap for it because it was so obvious that it was a dumping ground for teams. Mississippi Valley State, every time you turned around, was in it. That finally they got forced into a pressure deal where they sort of had to take 4 big boys, kind of the last 4 that would make it. And so what you get every year, on Tuesday, you'll get the 5:45 game between two schools you've never heard of and know absolutely nothing about.
American.
And then the 8 o'clock game is the Power Fives that limped in. Tennessee's been, Vanderbilt's been, I'm trying to think of some other teams.
Yeah.
Rick Byrd, finally in that great career, got an NCAA tournament win when his team beat Temple in Dayton in the first four. And then 2 days later, came within that much of beating Maryland.
I think I remember. Yeah, I remember that. I do remember that, actually. So this year's projected first four, Long Island and UMBC, the team that beat Virginia. First ever time a 16 has beaten a 1. Actually, no, it was the first time, but Fairleigh Dickinson did it to Purdue a couple years back, or might have been 3 or 4. New Mexico and Indiana, Santa Clara and Ohio State and Howard and I can't tell what the VCU.
Wait a minute. Run through those teams again.
Oh, it's the so it's Howard and BCU. I cannot see
Bethune-Cookman.
Is that what Bethune-Cookman? New Mexico and Indiana. I had it. Oh,
that'll
Long
be an
Island,
Indiana home game.
Yeah, Long Island and UMBC and Santa Clara and Ohio State.
Yeah. And they caught so much crap after 3 or 4 years of sort of this dumping ground on HBCUs that they finally had to say, okay, we will take some of the big boys and force them into Dayton.
Yeah, because I remember watching last year and it was like, American and some other school I'd never heard of. And then you get North Carolina and you get San Diego State. But George, it really bothers me. And I thought Jay Billis made the best point on this because I heard him talk about this on College Game Day last year. But the NCAA tournament is, I like it. I think it's perfect. We compromise on the fact that they expanded to 68, whatever. Don't expand it anymore. But Jay Billis made the best point, I thought. It's a championship event. And if we're just allowing all these, 16 and 14, these mediocre, these 17 and 14 Ohio State teams into this tournament to compete for a championship, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but what happens when one of those kind of teams makes a run?
Well, you'll have your cases like your NC States who were 17 and 14, but then they get hot and they win the ACC and they get the auto bid. I don't think that's going to... Letting Auburn, do you really think Auburn's going to go on a run?
Well, Tennessee was in Dayton and made a really nice run after getting a win there. All I'm saying is this. Deep down, there's a part of me that going into it agreed with you. But the thing I've learned is that even the NCAA can't screw up this tournament. If they go, for instance, to 72 or 76, yeah, it might water it down a little bit, but it might also give a Belmont, if they don't win their tournament, the opportunity to get in. And all I'm saying is this. There are teams that have come out of Dayton that have made the Final Four. Yes?
Yeah, UCLA.
Okay. You going to tell them they weren't worthy?
Where do you draw the line?
I don't know. That's a really good question because the truth of the matter is I'm convinced that even the NCAA can't screw it up. If
we
they
would
go
still
to,
watch.
Yeah, I
we
think
may
so.
not like it, but we would still watch.
If we go to 72 or 76, what likely is going to happen is that you would get more of a 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, Dayton, and then I'm going to make up a city, Omaha, which has been a great baseball city. I'm making one up.
Yeah.
Let me try to come with one that's
I'm looking at the
more realistic.
I'm looking at the bubble.
Maybe Lexington.
Yeah.
A great basketball
They
community.
would watch. I mean, Tony Basilio told us yesterday they're crazy about their college basketball in Lexington. I'm looking at the bubble though. So your first four out, it's Auburn, San Diego State, VCU, Virginia Tech. Your next four, USC, Cal, West Virginia, Cincinnati. I wouldn't consider San Diego State a mid-major. I consider the Mountain West.
It's a really good brand of ball.
Yeah.
But for instance, let's take Cincinnati. Okay. It's been kind of a down year for Cincinnati, but last night they whacked BYU something fierce.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden have caught some fire. They've beaten Iowa State. What if they got in and all of a sudden good things started to happen?
Here's what I'll say. What if they win a couple games, though, in the Big 12 tournament? What if they make it all the way to the semifinals? You never know how much that bubble could change, and you could probably work your way into it. I'm just saying, if we're opening up the door for all these teams, where are we going to draw the line?
I don't know.
I've heard conversations about 100.
Here's what the coaches are into. This is the argument they're putting out there, is that in football, right at 50% of your teams or more are going to postseason of some sort because there are 40 bowls, 80 teams, 130 some odd Division I football schools, right?
Yep.
Okay. And most of the time, the coaches feel like if you get to a bowl game, you're not going to get fired. And for the most part, that's true. Well, the same thing goes on in NCAA basketball. Seldom does a team reach the tournament and the coach gets fired. They're wanting this for job security. They're not worried about the purity of the game or the competitive nature of whatever you want to throw out there. This is all about coaches' job security. And they're sitting there saying, in football, close to 60% of these schools are getting in, which means that close to 60% of these schools are safe. They're coached. In basketball, they want the same kind of percentage.
Yeah. And I very, very rarely make comparisons with college football and college basketball because I believe it's an apples to oranges discussion. But when Josh Heupel the other day said he wanted 24 teams, he told Chris Lowe of On3, I'd like 24 teams. He's not saying that because, I'm worried about, Cincinnati or UCF or whoever getting left out. No, because he gets incentives if he leads Tennessee to the college football playoff. And if you expand this thing to 24, there's a higher likely chance that you're going to get in. That's what you're saying, George, right?
Yeah.
You'll get in.
And here's the other thing. Okay, these coaches aren't stupid. They know that, even though they're having to deal with NIL and it's not as much fun as it used to be, they're making gobs of money. Heupel's sitting there saying to himself, if I get fired at Tennessee, the likelihood is that I would probably take a step back in level of stature of the program at the next coaching job, probably not get as much money. So he's sitting there, he's worried about self-preservation. And, if I'm in his shoes and I'm making $5 to $10 million a year, I probably would too.
And that's the thing, too. Like when people come after Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, Tony Batiti, the commissioner of the Big Ten, look, I don't agree with everything that they're doing, but they're not paid to worry about the overall good of the college athletics. They're paid to worry about their specific conferences. So when they're adding the Texases and Oklahomas, you're poaching the best teams off the West Coast and importing them into your conference. That's not because it's for the good of the sport. It's because it helps them as a conference.
Here's the difference. Okay. The basketball people can say, look, here's a solution that doesn't delay anything. We add 8 more teams. We simply play 2 more games on the first, whatever we call it now, the first 4. Okay. It becomes the first 12 or whatever. Okay. They can do all that in one night in hoops. You go to 24 teams in a college football playoff. If Kelly thinks it's gone too long now, holy cow. The only way that I think they get to 24 is if what the Army coach Jeff Monken put out there earlier, few weeks ago that really didn't get a lot of attention. He put it out there that Army and Navy need to go back to playing Thanksgiving Saturday. And I agree with him. That is the solution to moving the playoff up a week and getting it over with quicker.
Yeah.
And I think, listen, I think there's going to come a point where that's going to happen.
I sure hope so.
Because
does that mean you move the regular season up 1 week?
No, what it means is that Army and Navy end up playing on Thanksgiving week, freeing up that December 13th Saturday to go playoff. See, right now, they're protecting Army and Navy by not having any of the playoff on that weekend, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He's saying we need to go to Thanksgiving like we used to, and you can slot the playoff to start the weekend of the 13th, then a weekend on the 20th, give or take whatever day it is in the calendar, skip past Christmas, play on New Year's, be over and done with no later than the 10th.
See, I want to protect Army Navy. I'd like to give it its own day if it were up to me. I don't see how you would do that without moving up rivalry weekend, because you mentioned Thanksgiving, playing Army Navy the next weekend, and then what happens at conference championship
he's
weekend?
saying we don't need to be protected.
Oh.
He's saying move it up to Thanksgiving weekend and just play it like we used to play it. Now, there is a solution to that. One would be that Army Navy play on Thanksgiving and be the college game, but unfortunately, now it would go up against the NFL. The other one is to maybe put it on Friday night exclusively.
I don't know.
Well,
I'd like to give it its own day. If I were in charge, I'd give it its own day.
Well, you're very patriotic.
I am.
Yeah.
So, but this wasn't, I mean, we kind of got into the calendar here when we were talking about the bubble and expanding this, college basketball. But like, I don't think expanding the college basketball tournament, you mentioned the idea, okay, what happens if Belmont doesn't win the Missouri Valley? What happens if Austin Peay doesn't win, all these different things? What happens if Miami, Ohio doesn't win the MAC? I don't think expanding this thing would give mid-majors more opportunities. I think it would go to the big boys.
Well, let me put it this way. I think for me, if we're going to expand, then we have to put in writing that X amount of those bids go to the little guy.
I wouldn't be opposed to that, actually. Because, I mean, we're sitting here talking about Auburn, a team with 14 losses with still one more game of the regular season to go, being the first team in the first four out over,
Look, I don't know how the committee is viewing it as far as Auburn. And I haven't looked at Auburn's preseason schedule enough to know, did they take on all comers?
Oh yeah.
Because there have been 16 and 14 kind of teams that got in if they played Godzilla schedules. I don't know what level Auburn's is, and if you've got it there where you can read it.
Yep. Houston.
I don't.
This was early on. It was Houston, Michigan, St. John's, NC State, Arizona, Purdue, all before conference play.
Now, wait a minute. You're saying that that's Auburn's preseason schedule?
That was before conference play.
Read that again. That is 6 NCAA, like top 20 kind of programs.
Houston.
No question.
Michigan.
No question.
St. John's.
No question.
NC State.
More like a bubble team.
And they beat it, NC State.
Yeah, and they're going to get in.
Arizona.
Way up there.
And Purdue.
Has slid a little.
But they're still firmly in there.
There's Auburn's argument. That's why Pearl's argument will at least hold some water. Now, am I right? Lenardi, where's he got Auburn?
Is the first team in the first 4 out.
Yeah.
Here's what's concerning to me, though, because, I was talking with somebody today about, that race for the last seed, that last number 1 seed. Is it going to be UConn? Is it going to be Florida? And I brought up the idea of how one of those teams played earlier in the regular season. They're like, oh, well, how have they played recent? Auburn has lost their 2 out of their last 8. They've won 2 out of their last 8, and they're 2-8 overall in their last 10.
Okay. And
does that not give you any?
That's not good, but, that 6 that you put in there, what's their strength of schedule? It's got to be in the top 5 in the country.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen. Hold on, I don't know if Lenardi listed on here.
Well, I'd
imagine it's up there though.
I'm going to read you what Lenardi put out there yesterday. Now, I suppose it's possible Miami is the worst undefeated team of all time, and Auburn is the best 500 team we've ever seen. But it's way more likely Pearl would be better off leaving bracketology to the professionals. And the truth of it is, they know each other.
Yeah.
They worked together back when Pearl was at ESPN. My guess is it's a friendly shot, but it's also him saying, I get a lot of these right.
He's the best. He's the best for a reason. So, did you see their strength of schedule at all? I don't have
Auburn.
Yeah.
No.
My guess would be, like you said, top 5, no doubt. With the given the gauntlet that they played, and especially for a first year head coach, pretty crazy stuff. So, Connor made this for us yesterday. This was games tonight, or this would be yesterday now, that could have affected the bracket. And you see Auburn out there. They beat LSU last night. Here are results from last night's games. What happened across all 5 major conferences? What happened to the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, Big 12, and Big East? George, here's something fascinating. So North Carolina beat Clemson last night, 67-63. North Carolina is one of 2 teams in the country that is undefeated at home. The other team is Duke, and both of those teams play on Saturday in Cameron Indoor. And I want to give Hubert Davis his flowers because they're 5-1 without Caleb Wilson.
Yeah, and that's going to help them in seeding. Let me go back. As of early March 2026, that's where we are right now, Auburn basketball has one of the toughest schedules in the nation, with Ken Pom ranking their strength of schedule as number 3 overall.
Man.
The team has faced a difficult, highly ranked schedule, and it ranks number 2 in net strength of schedule. I don't pretend to know what the difference is, but this difficult schedule, while resulting in a 5-11 record in quad 1 games, strengthens their case for the NCAA tournament. And by the way, if you're wondering how Vandy has stuck at a 5 and not dropped, it's the number of quad 1 wins they have, which is way up near the top of college basketball. Until recently, I didn't realize that.
Well, that's why they were a projected 4 seed when CBS originally lists the top 16. And to be honest, I was a little surprised, but given their schedule, that would make sense.
Now,
go ahead.
Let me say this. I know you're about to go to the break, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead and go to the break because I need to take care of something.
Okay, cool. We will talk to Jake Lyman on the other side, the voice of Vanderbilt women's basketball, as he's set to join us from Greenville. We're gonna ask him about Michaela Blakes and where she would stand all time with a national championship win, and we'll preview kind of what Vandy has coming up in the tournament. This is the George Plaster Show.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com. You've heard me talk about the putting zone. Well, guess what? It's now open, and it offers a revolutionary indoor golf experience featuring state-of-the-art putting surfaces designed to replicate real-world course conditions. It allows players of all skill levels to practice, compete in tournaments, and connect year-round. Go by and see them at 3040 Sidco Drive and tell them Plaz sent you. Are you looking for expert medical care in Nashville without leaving your home? Medical House Calls brings concierge-level health care directly to your door. Whether you need urgent attention, ongoing primary care, revitalizing IV therapy, or medically guided weight loss, our experienced providers are just a phone call away at 615-838-2375 or go online, medicalhousecalls.com. It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
Welcome back into the George Plaster Show as we continue with the 4 o'clock hour here at the Ford Ice Center. For the first time, making his Plaster debut, that is the voice of Vanderbilt women's basketball, Jake Lyman, who's joining us from Greenville, South Carolina. Jake, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on.
Did you make it in all right?
We did. Literally within the last hour, got to the hotel. So worked out perfectly to be able to come on the show.
We were having a very interesting debate about Vanderbilt women's basketball earlier, and I appreciate with the quick notice you coming on today. So let's go ahead and just start with this, because we were doing the show earlier with Corey Curtis and Connor Newt over at 102.5, and the question was asked that if Michaela Blakes and Vanderbilt win the national championship this year, would that make Michaela Blakes the greatest Vanderbilt women's athlete in general of all time?
Man, that's a good question.
Starting with the hard hitters today.
That's a really good question, because obviously there's a lot of great athletes that have gone through Vanderbilt, and to say that after just 2 years, but I mean, she might be the National Player of the Year this year. If she was able to win the national championship in year 2, I think there's an argument. And honestly, if the question was just by the end of her time here, is she looked at as the greatest Vanderbilt athlete of all time? I think there's a great argument for that, even if she doesn't win the national championship, just depending on what happens over the next 2+ seasons. But that's a really good question.
It shook me to my core hearing that. But I really like the case that you made for her winning National Player of the Year, because obviously the girls at UConn are going to get a lot of love. Sarah Strong, AZ Fudd. But and I love this, the way that you said it. You take them off of UConn's team, and they're still probably a 1 seed, right? You take Michaela Blakes off of Vanderbilt's team, and there's no way they're in contention for a 1 seed. That's my favorite argument.
Yeah, and I don't want it to seem like I'm taking anything away from Michaela's teammates. Like Aubrey Galvin and Justine Passat and Sasha Washington and all these players, they've been great this year, and they're a large reason why this team is so good. But when you look at UConn and Sarah Strong, she's a great player and she's efficient, and that's the argument that a lot of UConn fans have for her being National Player of the Year is look at the efficiency numbers. She's shooting almost 60% from the floor. Well, when you have 10 McDonald's All-Americans around you and another National Player of the Year candidate, Nazy Fudd, next to you, you don't have to be as relied upon as Michaela Blake's is. You can be more efficient because you're taking less shots. You're also playing a Big East schedule instead of an SEC schedule. Michaela Blake's just averaged 30.5 points per game in the toughest conference in the country. So
Unbelievable.
I think it is one of those things of you have to look at the situation and the context around it more than just the raw numbers.
So now, heading into this SEC tournament, we know that it's, Vanderbilt being the number 5 team in the country, it probably boils down to Vanderbilt and Texas for that final 1 seed. And I know it's every team's goal to win their conference, but how much, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but what is kind of the goal here? Is the goal to beat Texas so you can get that 1 seed, or is it more so let's just win the entire SEC? You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah, the goal is to win the championship this week, right? And I know South Carolina is about as tough as it gets to beat, especially in this arena with the way their fans travel. And Vanderbilt saw it last year firsthand, played South Carolina in the quarterfinals and nearly pulled off an unreal comeback and fell just short. But they've experienced that atmosphere and what it can be playing Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks in this arena. So, yes, of course, it would be great if you make it to the championship. And even if you lose, your consolation prize is you're still likely a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. But Shea Ralph said it yesterday after practice. She said that the SEC Coach of the Year and SEC Player of the Year and SEC Freshman of the Year, that's all great. But they want to win the things you can't vote on. And that starts this week, which is a chance at an SEC championship.
So I don't want to look too far ahead because I know Texas would be a bit down the road. And Vanderbilt got the big win over Texas in Memorial Gymnasium, had the home court advantage. What do you think the biggest challenge would be facing Texas on a neutral court?
Yeah, Texas is really good, and they haven't lost since that game against Vanderbilt. And I'm sure that game is top of their mind if they get a chance to play Vanderbilt again. I'm sure that they're going to be ready to go. And it's a really talented team. Madison Booker is the reigning SEC Player of the Year, or at least she was until yesterday. And Rory Harmon didn't play most of the second half in that game. Vic Schaefer said it was a coach's decision, but I think having her at full strength and maybe having a better night could make things look different. But Vanderbilt, I think, is going to go into that game with confidence if they get there of we beat this team and not just beat them. We beat them by 16 a little over a month ago. I think Vanderbilt will feel confident they can get it done again on Saturday if given the opportunity.
So Vanderbilt is going to play on Friday. Winner of so has Auburn Texas A&M already happened?
That is about to start in about 30 minutes.
Okay, so they would take on the winner of Ole Miss and the winner of Auburn and Texas A&M. Given that Vanderbilt has already lost to Ole Miss, how much of a kind of a pain in the side has Ole Miss been for Vanderbilt?
It's been a tough matchup the last couple of years, and I think the coaching staff would tell you too that they've been the thorn in Vandy's side. Even this year, where Vandy was so good and only lost 3 games in the SEC, just couldn't quite get over the hump against Ole Miss. Ole Miss has struggled as of late. I think lost 4 out of their last 5 to end the season, and they've been missing one of their better players in Sierra Chinu. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to play this weekend. If she's not, that would be a pretty big blow for Ole Miss. I think for Vanderbilt, they can beat Ole Miss. I think it's just you've got to be able to get off to a better start than they did back in January. And if they're able to win, I think it would be a really big boost for Vanderbilt's confidence, considering that's a team that has kind of had Vandy's number the last few years. To finally get that win, I think could do a lot for Vandy's confidence and momentum heading into the weekend.
How much confidence did it give the team beating the Lady Vols inside of TBA?
I think a lot. I think that's you talk about kind of getting the monkey off your back of Ole Miss. It's the same thing with Tennessee of they'd only won once in that building ever, 1-37 heading to Knoxville, and went out there and in the second half were able to erase a 6-point halftime deficit and go win. That's the first time Shea Ralph has been able to win in that building. And that's the first time Michaela Blakes has gotten to play in that building, and getting to see her go out there and score 23 second half points and get a win. And again, one of the toughest atmospheres to play in the country, even when the Lady Vols are having a down year. That's still a tough place to go in and win. So I think it does a lot for Vanderbilt's confidence, having 3 straight wins over, I know Tennessee wasn't ranked on Sunday, but they have been for most of the year.
Yeah.
3 straight wins over really good teams heading into the SEC tournament. I think Vanderbilt's feeling really good right now.
And I'll turn it over to George, who is a proud Vandy alum.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. You didn't wear your Vanderbilt legacy sweater today.
Where did that come from?
Just because I know you're very proud. You're very proud, George.
Okay, so Jake, let's go back to the argument, because we got to say up front, it's subjective. There isn't a right answer. There isn't a wrong answer. To a point, this is kind of splitting hairs. But when you throw out the argument that without her, can they get to the Final Four, what you're really doing is arguing for Diego Pavia, because the achievement of getting them to 10 wins and discussion of a New Year's Day bowl game, Vanderbilt women's basketball has been to a Final Four. Now, it's been 32 years ago, and I remember it well because Eddie Fogler bolted the day before to go to South Carolina, and Jim Foster's achievement kind of got put to the whatever, because Fogler the night before bolted for South Carolina and they lost to Texas Tech. But if you're going to make that argument, to me, it's benefiting Pavia more than it is her.
That is a very good point. And I think for Vanderbilt fans out there, how lucky are you to have those two playing for Vanderbilt at the exact same time, right? Like you got Diego Pavia and Michaela Blakes on the same campus at the same time, which has been crazy. But no, I get what you're saying. Of 1993, they went to the Final Four, and that team, you had Chantel Anderson on that team, who is still the leading scorer in Vanderbilt women's basketball history. I don't think she'll hold that when Michaela Blakes leaves campus, at least based on the average that she's on right now. But I think that's a good point. Of Vanderbilt women's basketball has gotten to a Final Four before. I think Michaela Blakes is going to get them there by the time she's done here. And at that point, you're 2 games away from a national championship. You are right. It may take a national championship for Michaela Blakes to earn that title outright.
Jake, in a world where, let's just face it, there's a ton of tampering, how much do they worry that she's being tampered with?
I mean, I have to assume that every program in the country would want Michaela Blakes on their team, right? Like I think she's the best player in the country, so obviously everyone would want her. I think Michaela made it pretty clear when she committed here, and even after last season, that she committed to Vanderbilt for 4 years. She did not commit here to try and parlay it into another program. She had all the offers from all of the schools that you would talk about that would be tampering. She had offers from Tennessee and LSU and all these other schools. She chose to come to Vanderbilt and made a commitment to try and do the uncommon thing on West End and try and build this program to be a national contender. So I do think that the staff has to realize that, yeah, like teams are going to want Michaela Blakes on their team, but I think Michaela's been pretty steadfast in that she wants to be a Commodore for her entire career.
Tell me this, because a lot of us don't really know. What is the recruiting story of how they got her? And in the end, who was it they had to beat out to get her?
Well, I know Tennessee was up there. I forget her entire top 5, but it was the usual suspect. She was the 8th ranked recruit in the country. And Vanderbilt really prioritized her coming out of Rutgers Prep in New Jersey, thinking that she could be the game changer that she's proven to be. And the story of her commitment is funny. And I told this story on Monday and Sunday on the broadcast as well, of how she committed. It was 2 years ago. Vanderbilt was on its way back from Knoxville after a tough loss I think it was a 3 or 4 point game in the final minutes and just couldn't quite get over the top to beat Tennessee. And it's a quiet bus ride on the way back, and Shea Ralph gets a FaceTime call from Michaela Blakes saying that she wants to come play for Vanderbilt and committing to play for Vanderbilt. And you might ask the question of, well, she was choosing between Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Tennessee won the game. Why would she choose Vanderbilt? And Michaela said, I watched that game and saw how hard your team fought. I can be the missing piece to help you win those games moving forward. And so I think Michaela, she isn't like a lot of the other big time recruits where it's, wanting to go and be one of 10 McDonald's All-Americans. She wanted to come in here and build something special and be the catalyst for this team. And I think you're seeing the Commodores are reaping the benefits of that decision just 2 years later.
So Friday, what time?
It is a 5 o'clock Central Time tip on Friday.
Okay. Knock them dead.
Jake, and I wanted to add on to that point. One more quick thing about Michaela is when I watch her, you can see she has the killer. I mean, she completely took over the game versus Lady Vols, but at the same time, there's a humility in her presence that you just do not see with a lot of players.
Yeah, Michaela's awesome because you being around her, you would have no idea that she's getting all these accolades. She is completely level-headed, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. But you're right, she's got the killer instinct. There have been multiple games, not just this year, but last year, where it's tight. You're playing a good team. Kentucky is the one that stands out to me this year. On the road against Kentucky, a game that Vandy trailed by double digits at one point. Michaela just said, we're not losing this game. And she scored 19 fourth quarter points and won the game for Vanderbilt on the road. So you're right. She's got the killer instinct, but it is funny. Off the court, you really wouldn't see it. She's just so calm, so level-headed, and just kind of a normal college kid out there.
And you can hear all of Vanderbilt's games on 94.9 The Fan starting on Friday with the pregame starting at 4:45. And that will, depending on how far they go, you'll be able to hear all of their games. And Jake, really appreciate the time again. Appreciate you coming on, given the short notice, but enjoy the basketball this weekend.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Should be a fun week out here in Greenville.
Thank you for the time again.
Thanks,
was Jake Lyman, voice of Vanderbilt women's basketball, does a fantastic job calling the games. And I know a lot of people want to watch the games on TV, and I completely understand that. But if you haven't heard Jake on the radio, I highly encourage you to do so. Again, those games will be on 94.9 The Fan. Really appreciate him coming on. On the other side, we got some more news and notes to get to before we wrap up the show. And that didn't go too well last night, George. Go figure. But I have another one, and hopefully that will go a lot better.
Hold on a second. Did you go Kansas?
I thought about it.
Congrats.
I went Alabama.
Oh,
yeah, it was tough. It was tough. We'll get to all that on the other side. This is the George Plaster Show.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400. Sports and Social in Green Hills Mall is the new home for our Football Night in Nashville promotion. Their food is terrific. Their TV setup looks like a race and sports book in Vegas. And if you're a sports fan, you can't beat it. Starting September the 4th, we'll broadcast from Sports and Social every Thursday night. There's Pop-A-Shot, great football, and the chance to win a beautiful Mikey's Motors golf cart. See you at Sports and Social in Green Hills Mall.
Welcome back into the George Plaster Show, wrapping up the Wednesday edition. Just got done speaking with Jake Lyman, the voice of Vanderbilt women's basketball, as they gear up for SEC tourney play in Greenville, South Carolina. Vanderbilt is going to play their first game on Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. You can hear all of those games on 94.9 The Fan. They will take on the winner of Ole Miss, who will play the winner of Auburn and Texas A&M. Couple games already happening over there in Greenville. Tonight in the college basketball slate, not as at least some heavyweight games as there was last night. We do have a couple. And Jay Lucas, who was an assistant under John Shire at Duke, done a phenomenal job with Miami in year one. They are the number 22 team in the country. First time being ranked this year. They take on SMU tonight on the ACC network. George, SMU, this is a home game for them. They're kind of one of those bubble teams. I think Lenardi has them in last time I checked. This would be a big resume booster for them.
You know, when I saw SMU in November here, I thought they were better than this. To me, they've been a real disappointment. Miami, on the other hand, has been one of those real pleasant surprises.
Yep.
And in fact, if you were going to throw out a team that is a long shot to make a deep run, maybe Miami is that type of team. They have a style that is very it's just very what's the word I'm looking for?
I know what you're saying.
They're just a tough style to play against.
Yeah.
And what are they, like 23-4?
23-6.
Okay.
Right now.
I mean, they've had a heck of a year.
They have a couple more games. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised to see them in the second weekend. I don't think that's a surprise whatsoever. And Jay Lucas has done a phenomenal job in year one. SMU is actually a favorite in this one. Again, they do have the home court advantage. They're a 1.5 point favorite. But if you're going to watch any game tonight, I highly recommend you watch that one. I think that could be really good. And then at the same time on ESPN2, Texas and Arkansas, George, which I think has a chance to also be a really good game.
Okay, so when you're trying to handicap, not that what I'm going to say is right, but here's some conventional wisdom. Okay, a few days ago, St. John's goes 0 for 24 in a loss. Was it to not to Villanova, to UConn?
Yeah.
So you knew the next game, Rick Pitino was going to get their attention. They basically blew out Villanova by about 20 at the Garden.
Right.
Well, you might have a similar situation tonight. Arkansas, which fancies itself as one of the best college teams in the country, and they are certainly one of the 20 most athletic out there,
sure,
if not even less. Well, they got humiliated. They're going to come out snorting tonight. And to me, Texas is walking into a bad deal.
I think you're right, George. I think this has a chance to be great because I've watched Texas play. They also have some athletes, not as many as Arkansas, of course, but Arkansas is one of those teams that has the ability to be a second weekend team, maybe even go a little bit further. I'm talking the Elite Eight. They have the capability. Just are they going to get those results when we get there? That's yet to be determined.
Well, the one thing you got to remember when you get to that point is he's not likely to outcoach anybody.
That's
so it's simply a matter of, does his talent out-talent your talent? One rare exception to me is when he beat Patino a year ago in the tournament. That one caught me off guard a little bit. That was a great win for a young Arkansas program. I just don't think Texas, I don't think they got the horses. If Arkansas is really ready to play, and you would think after what went on Saturday night that they would be ready to play.
No, George, that result certainly surprised me. I honestly thought Arkansas, they were this close to going to the Elite Eight because if you remember, they almost beat Texas Tech in that Sweet 16 matchup. So they have, a lot of that talent that can get them to that point. And when you look at Texas, I'm thinking, guys like Dalen Swain, Matthias Vokatitis, Tremont Mark, Jordan Pope, all those guys are great. I think this has a chance to be really good. But then again, George, where is it going to be played?
Fayetteville.
Exactly. One of the toughest places to play, I think. One of the more underrated places to play in all of college basketball. George, my bet didn't go well last night. That shouldn't be a surprise.
You want to run the commercial first?
You want to do that first?
Yeah, if you're looking to solve pain, it's not through us. It's not through our picks. It's through the Dr. Gill Center.
Are you tired of living with back pain? What would you do if the pain was gone?
At the Dr. Gill Center, we've helped thousands of people over the last 30 years break free from pain and get back to living life. We're committed to your outcomes, and our caring team listens, understands, and offers real solutions to neuropathy, back pain, and joint pain without unnecessary surgery or medication. Choose the clinic that listens. Choose the clinic that cares. Call the Dr. Gill Center today at 615-882-4838.
Let's make your pain-free life a reality.
So one of the things they do really well is what they call the initial consultation. It's $49. They bring you in. They say, hey, tell us what the problem is. Tell us how it started, how it's affecting your life. And now let's us put together a plan to, number one, make it better short-term, and long-term, get rid of it. Okay, if that's something you're dealing with right now, don't be afraid to call them. 615-882-4838. Again, 615-882-4838.
Something that has been causing me a lot of pain during these last 6 weeks has been the bet of the day. Now, last weekend was good for me because I went 5-1, and then I hit on Monday night as well, but then last night was a little bit rough because I went with Alabama. I thought they were getting hot. But Georgia's dangerous. And it was in Stegman Coliseum. And Georgia ended up winning that one fairly comfortably by 10 points.
Okay, see if you buy this. Georgia is one of the teams that can go head-to-head with them athletically.
Yes.
They don't have to take a back seat.
No. I think they're very athletic.
And last night, to me, what Georgia is Alabama without the past success, without the ability to have the swagger that Alabama has. Alabama's a program under Nate Oates that's reached the Final Four. Georgia's basically been an NIT program. But you know what? The more I watch Georgia has a chance to win a game or two in the tournament if they get a draw that's favorable. And I don't know what that means because I don't see them every night to know, okay, who gives Georgia a lot of trouble. I know that when I saw them a week ago here, I thought they sleptwalked through the first half, and Vandy took huge advantage. In the second half, Vandy didn't have many answers for Georgia, and thank goodness held on to win. Georgia's really athletic. I wouldn't want to play them in Stegman.
Lenardi has them facing off with Miami in the first round.
And
very tough draw.
Yeah, and then
UConn would be in there too.
And that's the kind of matchup they don't want.
Yep.
Miami's going to D up on you. Georgia would like more of a freewheeling kind of game. If I was going to pick teams that they don't want to play, Miami would be one of those.
Yeah.
It's like John Chaney's old Temple teams. You know, the NCAA always put Temple up against some high wire, freewheeling, score 100 a game kind of act. And then all of a sudden the game be in the upper 50s.
Yeah. So Georgia, we all agree, very good team. Given the right draw, their ceiling I could see being the Sweet 16. But that first round versus Miami, if it happens to play out that way, that's something nobody wants. Georgia has one more game in the regular season. They're at Mississippi State at the Hump on Saturday and tonight. Now, George, I actually don't know about this, but I saw it. I liked it. Indiana hosts Minnesota tonight.
You got to go with your heart.
And Indiana is a 6.5-point favorite. Minnesota does have a couple really good wins, but when you look at those wins, the common denominator is they've all been at Minnesota in the barn. This isn't in the barn. This is at Indiana. Indiana needs this win desperately to keep their NCAA tournament hopes alive, and that's why I'm going with it.
When I watch Indiana, I don't quite know what I'm getting. The kid that transferred from Drake, coach's son.
DeVries.
Okay.
Tucker DeVries.
Tucker DeVries.
Yep.
I thought he would have more impact and really kind of be able to take over their offense.
Yep.
But I don't think that's happened. I watch, and it's just sort of he's blending in, and that's it.
Did you
and I thought
watch them versus Michigan State?
Yeah.
On Sunday? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Michigan State hit everything under the sun.
Right.
They were brilliant. But that's the kind of win that Indiana used to get in their building that they're not getting now. Tonight, must win.
Must win.
Must win.
You got to.
Must win.
And again, they are one of those hot and cold. But again, this is going with my heart. Tomorrow on the show, college basketball insiders will join us. Should be fun because it's the month of March, and I know they're excited. We'll just talk to you all tomorrow on the George Plaster Show.